The courtroom was dead silent except for the sound of my hands trembling as I held the remote control. 300 pairs of eyes were fixed on me, the betrayed wife, the fool who didn't see it coming, the woman whose entire marriage was about to be exposed as a lie. But what they didn't know, what my husband Marcus didn't know as he sat there with his smug lawyer and his mistress in the gallery, was that I had the nuclear bomb in my hand. My brother Jake sat in the front row, his jaw clenched, his eyes burning with cold fury. He looked at me and nodded once. It was time. "Your Honor," I said, my voice surprisingly steady despite the rage coursing through my veins. "Before we proceed with my husband's petition for divorce on grounds of my alleged adultery, I have evidence I'd like to present to the court." Marcus's lawyer jumped up. "Objection, Your Honor. Mrs. Chun is not allowed to present evidence at this preliminary hearing." "I'll allow it," Judge Morrison said, her sharp eyes studying me with interest. "Given the serious allegations in this case, I want to hear what Mrs. Chun has to say." I pressed play on the remote. The courtroom's large screen flickered to life, and my husband's voice filled the room. But he wasn't talking to me. He was talking to my brother. "Jake, listen to me carefully. I need you to seduce your own sister. Make her think you're having an affair with her. I'll pay you $50,000. Once I have photos, I can divorce her and take everything. The house, the business, her inheritance, all of it." The courtroom erupted. Marcus went white as a sheet. His mistress stood up in shock. And I pressed play on the next recording. "Let me tell you how I got here. 6 months ago, my life was perfect. Or at least I thought it was. My name is Elena Chun. I'm 29 years old, and I run a successful marketing consultancy in Seattle, Washington. My husband Marcus Holloway, 33, is a real estate developer with his own firm. We've been married for 4 years, together for 6, and from the outside, we had everything: beautiful home in Queen and luxury cars, exotic vacations, the kind of Instagram-perfect life that made people envious. But perfect lives are often just perfect performances. I should have seen the signs. Looking back now, they were everywhere, glaring neon warnings I was too trusting to notice. The late nights at work, the new password on his phone, the sudden interest in going to the gym and buying expensive cologne, the way he'd flinch when I touched him, like my hands on his skin were an inconvenience. But I believed him. God, I believed every word. My brother Jake was my best friend. He's 31, 2 years older than me, and we'd always been close. After our parents died in a car accident when I was 19, Jake became everything: brother, father figure, protector, friend. He put his own life on hold to make sure I finished college. He helped me start my business. He walked me down the aisle at my wedding. Jake never liked Marcus. From the beginning, he had reservations. "There's something off about him, Mal," he'd say. "I can't put my finger on it, but something doesn't feel right." I'd laugh it off. "You're just being overprotective. Marcus loves me." I was so blind. Before I continue, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. I love hearing from you. And if this story resonates with you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. It started on a Tuesday evening in March. I came home early from a client meeting that had been canceled. Our house was dark except for a light in Marcus's home office. I smiled, thinking I'd surprise him, maybe order his favorite Thai food, and have a nice quiet dinner together. As I walked up the stairs, I heard his voice coming from behind the closed office door. He was on the phone, and his tone was different, cold, calculating, nothing like the warm, affectionate husband I knew. I stopped outside the door, something instinctive telling me to listen. "I'm telling you, Richard, she has no idea. The business is worth at least $2 million, and her inheritance from her parents is sitting in a trust fund worth another $3 million. Once I file for divorce and prove adultery, Washington state law gives me leverage. Her lawyer won't see it coming." My heart stopped. I pressed my hand against the wall to keep from collapsing. "The problem," Marcus continued, "is that she's too loyal, too devoted. I need her to actually have an affair, or at least look like she's having one. That's where her brother comes in. Jake. What did my brother have to do with this?" "Jake Chun is a personal trainer, right?" the voice on the other end said. I could hear it through Marcus's speakerphone. "He's close to his sister. You think you can manipulate him?" Marcus laughed. It was a sound I'd never heard from him before. Cruel. Heartless. Jake is struggling financially. His gym is failing. He's desperate for money. I've already done the research. He's $80,000 in debt from a bad investment. He'll do anything for cash. How much are you offering? $50,000 to seduce his own sister. Or at least make it look like he's seducing her. All I need are photos, text messages, anything that suggests impropriety. With Jake being her brother, it'll be even more scandalous. The judge will be disgusted. I'll get everything. I couldn't breathe. My husband wasn't just planning to divorce me. He was planning to frame me for an affair with my own brother. He was going to destroy my reputation, my relationship with Jake, my entire life, all to steal my money. And if Jake refuses, Richard asked, he won't. But if he does, I'll threaten to expose some photos I accidentally discovered of him with a client. I'll ruin his business either way. He'll cooperate. What about your girlfriend? Is she okay with this timeline? Vanessa's fine. She knows I'm only staying with Elena until we can drain her accounts. Once the divorce is final and I have the money, Vanessa and I are moving to Costa Rica. We've already bought property there. Vanessa, my supposed friend Vanessa, the woman who came to our house for dinner parties, the woman I'd confided in about my problems, the woman who smiled to my face while sleeping with my husband behind my back. I backed away from the door, my entire body shaking. I made it to the bathroom before I vomited, my perfect life shattering into a million pieces in that moment. But even in my devastation, my mind was working. I couldn't confront him. Not yet. If Marcus knew I'd overheard his plan, he'd accelerate everything. He'd find another way to destroy me. I needed proof. I needed a plan. And I needed to warn Jake. I washed my face, fixed my makeup, and forced myself to act normal when Marcus came out of his office 20 minutes later. "Hey, babe," he said, kissing my cheek with those lying lips. "Didn't know you were home." "Client meeting ended early," I said, my voice amazingly steady. "I was thinking we could order Thai." "Perfect. You're so sweet, Elena. What would I do without you?" Rob me blind and destroy my reputation with my own brother, apparently. That night, after Marcus fell asleep, I slipped out of bed and went to my car. I drove to Jake's apartment across town and knocked on his door at midnight. When he opened it, looking concerned, I fell into his arms and started crying. "Elle, what's wrong? What happened?" I told him everything. Every word of Marcus's phone call. The mistress. The plan to frame us. The $50,000 bribe. Jake's face went from concern to shock to absolute fury. He wants me to do what? Seduce my own sister? Is he insane? "He's a monster," I said. "And he's going to approach you soon. Jake, I need you to say yes." My brother stared at me like I'd lost my mind. "Excuse me." "Say yes to his plan," I repeated. "But record everything. Every conversation, every instruction, every detail. We need him on tape admitting what he's doing. It's the only way to stop him." Jake was quiet for a long moment, his mind processing. Then his expression changed. Cold, calculated, exactly like mine felt. "You want to set a trap. I want to destroy him the way he planned to destroy us." My brother smiled. It wasn't a happy smile. It was the smile of someone ready for war. "When he approaches me, I'll be ready. But Elle, you have to be prepared for what comes next. This is going to get ugly." He made it ugly when he decided to use my love against me. Over the next 2 weeks, I played the perfect wife. I smiled at Marcus. I cooked his favorite meals. I pretended everything was normal while inside. I was gathering evidence, copying financial records, documenting everything. Jake did the same. He wore a recording device every single day, waiting for Marcus to approach him. It happened on a Thursday afternoon. Marcus showed up at Jake's gym unannounced. "Marcus," Jake said, his voice neutral. The recording device hidden in his water bottle was running. "What brings you here?" "I need to talk to you about something delicate," Marcus said. "Is there somewhere private we can speak?" They went to Jake's office. And that's when my husband made his pitch. "Jake, I know you're in financial trouble. I know about the debt, the failed investment, the fact that your gym is 3 months behind on rent." "How do you?" "I make it my business to know things," Marcus interrupted. "I also know you care about your sister very much. Which is why I'm coming to you with a proposition that benefits both of us. What kind of proposition? Marcus laid it out exactly as I'd heard on the phone. $50,000 for Jake to seduce me, or at least create the appearance of an affair. Photos of us in compromising situations. Text messages that could be interpreted as romantic. Anything that Marcus could use in divorce court to prove I was an unfaithful wife. You want me to frame my sister for cheating on you? With me? Jake's voice was incredulous. That's sick, Marcus. That's beyond sick. That's business, Marcus corrected. Elena has money I need. Her inheritance. Her business. It's all going to waste with her naive little marketing firm. I can turn that capital into real wealth. I just need to get her out of the picture legally. And you think I'd betray my own sister for money? I think you'll do it because you're desperate, Marcus said coldly. And because if you don't, I'll make sure every client at your gym sees these photos. There was a pause. Jake must have been looking at whatever Marcus showed him. These are fake, Jake said. Doesn't matter. Once I send them to your client mailing list with a subject line about sexual harassment, your business is finished. You'll never work in the city again. Blackmail. My husband was blackmailing my brother. Jake was silent for a long moment. Then he said, How long do I have to think about it? 24 hours. After that, the offer drops to $30,000. After 48 hours, I just release the photos and you get nothing. I need to see the money first. Proof you actually have it. Smart man, Marcus said. I could hear the smugness in his voice. I'll transfer $10,000 to your account tomorrow as a down payment. The rest when I have the evidence I need. When Jake came to my house that night, through the back door, careful not to be seen, he looked shaken. He's worse than we thought. He had fake photos made of me with a client. He's prepared to destroy both of us. Did you get it on tape? Every word. Then we have him. But we needed more. We needed to build an airtight case that would not only stop Marcus but expose everything. The mistress, the financial planning, the manipulation, all of it. Jake agreed to Marcus's terms. Over the next month, he played along perfectly. He'd come to the house when Marcus was supposedly out of town for business. He'd send me text messages that Marcus could intercept if he checked my phone. Messages that were deliberately ambiguous but could be interpreted as romantic by someone looking for evidence. Thinking about you could mean sisterly love or something more sinister. Can't wait to see you tonight could be about dinner or an affair. Every message was crafted carefully. Every interaction was designed to give Marcus exactly what he wanted while being completely innocent in reality. And Marcus took the bait. He had a private investigator following us. He collected every photo, every text message, every suspicious moment. What he didn't know was that Jake was recording everything. Every conversation with Marcus, every instruction, every payment, every threat. We also discovered more about Vanessa. She wasn't just Marcus's mistress. She was his partner in crime. They'd done this before, targeted wealthy women, manipulated them into marriages, created scandals, and walked away with millions. In California, Marcus had been married to a woman named Jennifer Rodriguez. He divorced her after convincing everyone she was mentally unstable. He'd gotten her business and her house. Jennifer attempted suicide after losing everything. In Texas, it was Patricia Morrison. Same pattern. Married her, gaslight her, framed her for infidelity with a co-worker, took everything in the divorce. Marcus and Vanessa were professional predators. I was just their latest target. My lawyer, a fierce woman named Diana Wu, helped me build the case. We compiled evidence of Marcus's previous marriages and divorces. We documented the financial transfers he'd been making to offshore accounts. We had Jake's recordings of every conversation. And then we waited for Marcus to make his move. If this story is making your blood boil like mine was, make sure you're subscribed and hit that notification bell so you don't miss what happens next. Trust me, the revenge gets so much better. Your support means everything to this channel. He filed for divorce on a Monday morning in September. 6 months after I'd overheard his phone call. 6 months of playing the perfect wife while planning his destruction. The divorce petition was brutal. It accused me of having an inappropriate relationship with my brother. It cited text messages and photos as evidence. It claimed I was unfit, immoral, and deserving of nothing in the divorce. Marcus moved out that same day into a luxury apartment downtown. With Vanessa, of course. Friends started calling me, shocked by the allegations. Some believed Marcus. Some believed me. The court of public opinion was vicious. But I stayed quiet. I let Marcus think he'd won. I let him get comfortable, arrogant, confident that his plan had worked perfectly. The preliminary hearing was scheduled for 3 weeks later. That's when I'd present my evidence. That's when the trap would spring. The night before the hearing, Jake came over. We sat in my living room, going over everything one last time. "Are you ready for this?" he asked. "Once we play these recordings in court, there's no going back. This will destroy him." "Good," I said coldly. "He deserves to be destroyed. What about Vanessa?" "Diana's already contacted her husband." "Yes, Vanessa is married. Her real name is Vanessa Holloway, Marcus's actual legal wife. They've been running this con together for years, both using fake identities to target victims." Jake's eyes widened. "So you were never even legally married to Marcus?" "No. Which means all the assets he thinks he's getting in the divorce are still entirely mine. But he doesn't know that yet. Jesus, Elle. This is bigger than we thought. Which is why we're taking them both down. That brings us to the courtroom. To the moment I pressed play on the remote and my husband's voice filled the room. "Jake, listen to me carefully. I need you to seduce your own sister. Make her think you're having an affair with her. I'll pay you $50,000. Marcus jumped up. "That's not real. That recording is fake." Judge Morrison's gavel came down hard. "Mr. Holloway, sit down. Now." I played the next recording. And the next. Hours of conversations between Marcus and Jake. Marcus explaining his plan. Marcus making payments. Marcus threatening Jake with fake photos. Then I played the recordings of Marcus and Vanessa, planning their escape to Costa Rica, laughing about how stupid I was, discussing their previous victims. "Jennifer Rodriguez was so easy," Vanessa's voice said. "She actually believed he loved her right up until the moment we took everything." "Patricia Morrison was better," Marcus replied. "She fought back, but we crushed her anyway. Got her business, her house, even her kids' college fund." "Elena will be the best one yet," Vanessa said. $3 million from her parents' trust plus her business. We'll be set for life." The courtroom was in chaos. People were shouting. The judge was banging her gavel. Marcus's lawyer was trying to object, but Diana stood up and calmly handed the judge a thick folder. "Your Honor, I have documented evidence that Marcus Holloway is legally married to Vanessa Holloway, not to my client. Their marriage certificate is in this folder, which means Mr. Holloway's petition for divorce is fraudulent. He was never legally married to Mrs. Chun. She is a victim of identity theft, fraud, and conspiracy." Judge Morrison opened the folder. Her face went from stern to absolutely furious. "Bailiff, I want Mr. Holloway and Vanessa Holloway taken into custody immediately." "On what charges?" Marcus's lawyer demanded. "Fraud, conspiracy, identity theft, blackmail, and about 6 other charges I'm going to spend this evening documenting," Judge Morrison said. "This is the most appalling case I've seen in 20 years on the bench." As the bailiffs approached Marcus, he lunged toward me. Jake was faster. My brother tackled Marcus to the ground before he could reach me, holding him there until security could cuff him. "You bitch!" Marcus screamed at me. "You destroyed everything. You were supposed to be easy. I was supposed to be your victim," I said, my voice ice cold. "But you picked the wrong woman to con." Vanessa was arrested in the gallery. She didn't scream or fight. She just looked at me with dead eyes and said, "You'll regret this." "The only thing I regret is trusting your husband," I replied. "If that's even his real name." It wasn't. We discover later that Marcus Holloway was actually Marcus Shaw, a con artist with warrants in 4 states. Vanessa was his sister, not his wife, another lie. They'd been running romance scams for a decade. The bailiffs led them both away. The courtroom slowly emptied. Judge Morrison approached me, her expression softer now. "Mrs. Chun, I want you to know that your case is going to help a lot of people. I'm going to make sure the DA pursues maximum charges, and I'm going to personally recommend your story be used in training for judges on how to recognize these types of scams." "Thank you, Your Honor. You're very brave. And very smart. I just had a good brother." Jake put his arm around me as we left the courthouse. Reporters swarmed us, shouting questions, but Diana shielded us and got us to our car. In the quiet of the vehicle, I finally let myself break down. Jake held me while I sobbed, not for Marcus, but for the loss of who I thought he was, for the 4 years I'd wasted, for the violation of having someone I loved turn out to be a complete stranger. "It's over," Jake whispered. "It's finally over." But it wasn't. Not quite. The trial took 4 months. Marcus and Vanessa were charged with multiple counts of fraud, identity theft, blackmail, and conspiracy. We discovered they had at least 8 victims across the country. Each one came forward to testify. Jennifer Rodriguez, who'd attempted suicide, was there. She looked at Marcus with haunted eyes and said, "You made me think I was crazy. You stole my business, my home, my sanity. I tried to kill myself because I thought I was the problem." Patricia Morrison testified about how Marcus had isolated her from her family, convinced her that her daughter hated her, then disappeared with everything including her daughter's college fund. Victim after victim, story after story. Marcus and Vanessa had destroyed lives systematically, professionally, without remorse. When it was my turn to testify, the prosecutor asked me, "Mrs. Chun, why do you think they targeted you?" "Because I was successful, trusting, and had recently lost my parents," I said. "I was vulnerable. I wanted to believe in love again after so much loss. They saw that vulnerability and weaponized it." "And your brother? What role did he play?" "Jake saved me. When Marcus tried to use him against me, Jake chose me. He could have taken the money and ruined my life. Instead, he helped me expose the truth. Jake testified about the recordings, the blackmail, the threats. He explained how Marcus had tried to destroy both of us. The evidence was overwhelming. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. Guilty on all counts. Marcus was sentenced to 18 years in federal prison. Vanessa got 15 years. Their assets, everything they'd stolen from their victims over the years, were seized and distributed back to the people they'd hurt. I got my money back. Jennifer got her business back. Patricia got her daughter's college fund restored. But more than that, we all got validation. We weren't stupid. We weren't weak. We were victims of professionals who'd spent years perfecting their craft. And we'd survived. After the trial ended, I sold the house I'd shared with Marcus. Everything in it felt contaminated. I bought a smaller place on Capitol Hill, just for me, filled with things I chose, reflecting who I actually was without anyone's manipulation. Jake's gym was thriving. I'd invested in it during the trial, helping him expand. He paid me back every penny within 2 years. He also met someone, a kind, genuine woman named Sarah who loved him for exactly who he was. I went to therapy. A lot of therapy. I had to work through the trust issues, the paranoia, the fear that everyone around me might be lying. It took years. 3 years after the trial, I met someone. His name was David Lynn, a professor at the University of Washington. We met at a coffee shop when he accidentally grabbed my latte. I was terrified of trusting him, terrified of being fooled again. But David was patient. He let me run background checks. He introduced me to his family, his friends, his colleagues. He was transparent about his finances, his past, everything. "I know you've been hurt," he told me on our 3rd date. "I can't promise I'll never make mistakes, but I can promise I'll never lie to you. If something bothers you, ask. If you need space, tell me. We'll figure this out together at whatever speed you need." That honesty, that respect, it was everything Marcus had never given me. We dated for 2 years before getting engaged. Jake walked me down the aisle again, but this time to a man who deserved me. Our wedding was small, intimate, real. No performances, no lies, just people who genuinely loved us. During his vows, David said, "Elena, you've been through hell and came out stronger. You trusted me with your heart, even though it had been shattered. I promise to honor that trust every single day for the rest of my life." I cried, but they were happy tears. 5 years after the trial, I got a letter in the mail. It was from Marcus, writing from prison. "Elena," it began, "I know you'll probably throw this away without reading it, but I need to try. I'm sorry. I know those words are meaningless after what I did, but I need you to know that in some twisted way, I did care about you. You were different from the others. You were kind, genuine, smart. That's why I almost didn't go through with the plan. But I was too deep into the con. I'd been doing it too long. I didn't know how to be real anymore. I've spent 5 years in prison thinking about the lives I destroyed. I've read the victim impact statements. I know about Jennifer's suicide attempt. I know about Patricia's daughter not speaking to her for 2 years. I know about you and Jake and how I tried to destroy your family. I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted you to know that you won not because you were smarter, but because you were brave enough to fight back. Most people don't. They let us win. You didn't. I hope you're happy now. I hope you found someone real. You deserve that all along. Marcus. I read the letter once, then put it through the shredder. He didn't get to be the complex, sympathetic villain who learned his lesson. He didn't get my forgiveness or my pity. He was exactly what Judge Morrison called him, a predator who destroyed lives for profit. But I did take something from his letter. The validation that fighting back was the right choice. That most victims don't fight because they're too broken, too embarrassed, too scared. I'd been all of those things. But I'd fought anyway. My story made headlines. I was invited to speak at conferences about romance fraud. I wrote a book called The Brother Who Saved Me, Exposing a Romance Con. Every penny of profit went to a foundation I created to help victims of romance scams. Jake and I speak at events together. We tell our story. We explain the warning signs, the red flags, the psychology of how these cons work. They isolate you, Jake always says. They make you doubt everyone except them. Marcus tried to turn me against Elena by offering me money. The con only works if they can separate victims from their support system. I add, and they're patient. Marcus spent 6 years with me. 6 years of pretending to love me. That's dedication to a lie. That's why victims can't see it. Because who would suspect someone would spend years of their life on a performance? We've helped dozens of people recognize the signs in their own relationships. We've connected victims with legal help, financial counseling, therapy. One woman reached out to me after my story went viral. Her name was Michelle, and she was engaged to a man who was showing all the classic signs, moving too fast, isolating her from family, asking detailed questions about her finances. I thought I was being paranoid, she told me. But after reading your story, I hired a private investigator. My fiancé is already married. In 3 states. I'm his 4th target. She called off the engagement and reported him to the police. He's in prison now, serving time for bigamy and fraud. You saved my life, Michelle told me. I would have married him. He would have destroyed me. That's what makes all of it worth it. The exposure, the judgment, the embarrassment of admitting I was conned. It's worth it if it helps even one person avoid what I went through. My life now is peaceful. David and I have a daughter named Sophie. She's 2 years old and absolutely perfect. We're teaching her to trust her instincts, to question things that don't feel right, to know that love should never make you doubt yourself. Jake is her favorite uncle. He spoils her rotten and tells her stories about how he and Mommy fought the bad guys together like superheroes. She doesn't need to know the details yet. Someday, when she's older, I'll tell her the truth about what happened. I'll explain that monsters sometimes look like Prince Charming, that love can be weaponized, that trust must be given carefully. But I'll also tell her that she can survive anything, that family stands together, that bad people can be defeated if you're brave enough to fight. Last month, I received notification that Marcus was up for parole. He'd served 8 years of his 18-year sentence and was arguing for early release on good behavior. Diana called me immediately. They want victim statements. Are you willing to testify at the parole hearing? Absolutely. The hearing was scheduled for December. I drove to the prison with Jake. We sat in a cold, institutional room and waited for Marcus to be brought in. When he walked through the door in his orange jumpsuit, he looked older. Gray hair, tired eyes, the arrogance gone. He glanced at me once, then looked away. The parole board asked me to speak first. My name is Elena Chen, I began. 8 years ago, Marcus Shaw spent 4 years of my life pretending to love me. He married me under a false identity. He planned to frame me for an affair with my own brother so he could steal my inheritance. He blackmailed my brother, manipulated my friends, and would have destroyed my life if we hadn't stopped him. I looked directly at Marcus. You wrote me a letter saying you were sorry, that you cared about me in some twisted way. But if you'd cared, you would have stopped. You would have walked away. You wouldn't have tried to turn my brother against me. You wouldn't have stolen years from Jennifer Patricia, and all your other victims. Marcus kept his eyes down. I'm here to tell you that 8 years is not enough, I continued. You should serve every single day of your 18-year sentence. And when you get out, I hope you're on a registry. I hope every person you meet can Google your name and see exactly who you are. I hope you never get the chance to do this to someone else. Jake spoke next. Marcus tried to bribe me to betray my sister. When I refused, he threatened to destroy my business. He saw family as something to exploit. He weaponized the love between siblings. I recorded everything because I knew no one would believe us without proof. Con artists are too good at lying. The parole board asked Marcus if he wanted to respond. He stood up slowly. I just want to say that I'm not the same person I was 8 years ago. Prison has given me time to reflect on the damage I caused. I've participated in therapy. I've taken accountability courses. I've written apology letters to all my victims. Apology letters don't return stolen money, I interrupted. Apology letters don't fix Jennifer Rodriguez's attempted suicide. Apology letters don't give Patricia Morrison back the years she lost with her daughter. The parole board deliberated for 30 minutes. When they returned, the chairwoman looked at Marcus and said, "Parole denied. You'll be eligible again in 4 years." I felt a weight lift. For more years. For more years that Marcus couldn't hurt anyone. Outside the prison, Jake hugged me. We did it again. We did. Do you think he's actually changed? I thought about it. Maybe. Prison changes people. But it doesn't matter. He doesn't get to hurt people just because he's sorry now. He made calculated choices to destroy lives. He has to face the full consequences. We drove home, stopping for coffee at our favorite place. It felt surreal, sitting in a normal coffee shop after testifying at a parole hearing, but that was my life now, normal moments punctuated by reminders of the past. How's Sophie? Jake asked. She asked about you this morning. Wanted Uncle Jake to take her to the zoo. This weekend work? Perfect. We talked about normal things. Jake's gym expansion. Sophie's daycare. David's upcoming lecture series. Life had moved on. We'd moved on. Marcus was a chapter in our story, not the whole book. That night, I tucked Sophie into bed and read her favorite story about a brave princess who saved herself. She didn't need a prince. She had her own strength. Mama, are there bad people? Sophie asked suddenly. Yes, baby. There are. How do you know who's bad? I thought carefully about how to answer. You trust your feelings. If something feels wrong, it probably is. And you always tell people you trust when something doesn't feel right. Like you and Daddy and Uncle Jake. Exactly like us. We're your safe people. You can tell us anything. She hugged her stuffed rabbit. Okay, Mama. I love you, Sophie. Love you more. I kissed her forehead and left the room, standing in the hallway for a moment, overwhelmed with gratitude. For my daughter, for David, for Jake, for the life I'd rebuilt from ruins. Marcus had tried to take everything from me. Instead, he taught me something valuable, that I was stronger than I ever knew. That family was worth fighting for. That love, real love, was worth the risk of trusting again. In the end, his betrayal made me more careful, but it didn't make me bitter. I refused to let him have that power. I walked downstairs where David was working on his lecture notes. He looked up and smiled. That genuine, warm smile that still made my heart flutter after 4 years together. How did it go? He asked. Parole denied. Good. You want to talk about it? No. I want to just be here with you. He closed his laptop and pulled me onto the couch next to him. We sat in comfortable silence, his arm around me, the house quiet and peaceful. This was real. This was love. This was everything Marcus could never give me because he was never real to begin with. And that was his loss, not mine. My story isn't a fairy tale with a perfect ending. I still have bad days where I question people's motives. I still sometimes wake up from nightmares about the trial, about the recordings, about the moment I heard Marcus plotting with my brother. But those days are getting fewer. The nightmares are losing their power. And I'm learning to trust my instincts again, the instincts that told me something was wrong, that made me listen at that door, that gave me the courage to fight back. To anyone reading this who's been through something similar, who's been conned, manipulated, gaslit by someone they loved, it wasn't your fault. These people are professionals. They study human psychology. They know exactly how to make you trust them, love them, depend on them. But you can survive this. You can rebuild. You can learn to trust again. And to anyone thinking about running a con, using love as a weapon, targeting vulnerable people for profit, there are Jakes out there. There are people who will record your every word. There are victims who will fight back. There are prosecutors who will make it their mission to put you away. You might win for a while, but eventually, you'll face a courtroom full of people whose lives you destroyed. And you'll lose everything. My name is Elena Chin. I'm 34 years old now. I'm a wife, a mother, a sister, a survivor, and an advocate. I'm not defined by what Marcus did to me. I'm defined by how I fought back. And that's the real victory. The foundation I created, called the Truth Alliance, became something far bigger than I ever imagined. What started as a small support group in Seattle expanded into a national organization with chapters in 42 states. We have a 24-hour hotline staffed by trained counselors who understand romance fraud. We have lawyers who work pro bono to help victims navigate the legal system. We have financial advisors who help people recover stolen assets and rebuild their credit. But the most important thing we offer is community. A place where victims can share their stories without judgment, without shame, without people asking them how they didn't see the signs. I spend 2 days a week at the Truth Alliance headquarters. The rest of my time goes to my marketing consultancy, which ironically has grown exponentially since my story went public. Turns out, surviving a calculated con and coming out victorious is excellent marketing for a strategic consulting firm. David finds this darkly hilarious. You literally turned your trauma into a competitive business advantage, he said one night over dinner. That's the most badass thing I've ever heard. I prefer to think of it as refusing to let him take anything else from me, I replied. That's what makes it badass. Sophie, now 7 years old, asks more questions about my past. She knows the basics, that mommy was married before daddy, that the marriage wasn't real, that Uncle Jake helped me be safe. We've decided to give her age-appropriate information as she gets older, building a foundation of understanding about manipulation and trust. Last week, she came home from school upset. A boy in her class had been bullying her, then claimed he was just joking when she told the teacher. He said I'm too sensitive, Sophie told me, tears in her eyes. He said I can't take a joke. My protective instincts flared immediately. This was gaslighting. At 7 years old, she was already encountering someone trying to make her doubt her own reality. Sophie, listen to me, I said, kneeling down to her eye level. When someone hurts you and then tells you you're too sensitive, that's called gaslighting. It's when someone makes you doubt your own feelings. Your feelings are always valid. If something hurts you, it hurts you. That's real. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise. Like what the bad man did to you. Exactly like that. And you know what? You did exactly the right thing by telling your teacher. That's being brave. The boy said I'm a tattletale. People who hurt others don't like it when their victims speak up. That's why they try to make you feel bad for telling. But telling the truth is never wrong. David, who'd been listening from the kitchen, added, Your mom is the bravest person I know because she told the truth even when it was really hard. That's the kind of person you want to be. Sophie thought about this, then nodded. I'm going to be brave like Mommy. You already are, sweetheart. These moments, these small teachings about boundaries and truth and self-trust, felt like the real victory over Marcus. He tried to destroy my ability to trust, to believe in my own perceptions, to stand up for myself. Instead, I was raising a daughter who would never question her right to be believed. The 9th anniversary of the courtroom confrontation arrived on a cold February morning. Diana called me early. Turn on the news. Channel 7. I grabbed the remote. There on the screen was a breaking news story. Notorious romance fraud ring dismantled after 9-year investigation. The reporter stood outside a federal courthouse in Chicago. Federal agents today arrested 12 individuals connected to what prosecutors are calling the largest organized romance fraud operation in U.S. history. The investigation began 9 years ago with a case in Seattle involving Marcus Shaw and Vanessa Shaw, but has since uncovered a network spanning 17 states and defrauding victims of over $50 million. My phone started ringing. Jake. Then reporters. Then other victims I'd stayed in touch with. The press wanted statements, interviews, reactions. Diana handled most of it, but she scheduled one press conference where Jake and I could speak. We stood at a podium in front of dozens of cameras, and I felt that familiar mix of vulnerability and power. 9 years ago, my brother and I took down 2 predators who tried to destroy our family, I began. We thought that was the end. But it was just the beginning. Those arrests led to an investigation that uncovered a massive criminal organization that trained con artists, provided them with fake identities, and helped them target and destroy vulnerable people. Jake continued. The organization operated like a business. They recruited people with troubled backgrounds, trained them in manipulation techniques, provided them with backgrounds and cover stories, and took a percentage of everything they stole. Marcus and Vanessa were employees. Today, the entire operation has been shut down. Over 300 that we know of, I said. The FBI is still working to identify others. How does it feel knowing your case led to this? I took a breath. It feels like justice. Not just for me, but for everyone they hurt. And it proves that fighting back matters. Speaking up matters. Recording evidence matters. We save hundreds of people from becoming future victims. Do you have a message for anyone in a similar situation? Trust your instincts, I said firmly. If something feels wrong, it probably is. Document everything. Tell someone you trust. And know that you're not crazy, you're not paranoid, you're not overreacting. Abusers and con artists work by making you doubt yourself. Don't let them. The press conference went viral. Within 24 hours, my phone had over 1,000 messages from people thanking me, sharing their own stories, asking for help. The Truth Alliance website crashed from traffic. We had to bring in additional volunteers just to handle the influx. But the most meaningful message came from Jennifer Rodriguez. She called me directly, her voice thick with emotion. Elena, I just wanted to say thank you. When Marcus destroyed me 12 years ago, I didn't think I'd survive. I certainly didn't think I'd ever see justice. But today, seeing that entire organization brought down, knowing it started with your case, I finally feel like I can close that chapter. I'm getting married next month. To someone real, someone honest. I never thought I'd trust anyone again. Jennifer, that's wonderful. I wanted to invite you to the wedding. You and Jake. You two saved more than just yourselves. You saved all of us. The wedding was beautiful. Small, intimate, real. Jennifer glowed with genuine happiness. Her fiancé, Robert, was a gentle man who'd also been a victim of fraud years earlier. They'd met at a support group, bonded over their shared trauma, and built something authentic from their broken pieces. We understand each other, Jennifer told me at the reception. We both know what it's like to be betrayed. We both know the value of truth. There are no secrets between us, no games, no manipulation. Just honesty. That's all any of us want, I said. To be loved for who we actually are. Marcus took years from me, but he also, inadvertently, led me here. To Robert, to healing, to this life. I'm not grateful to Marcus. I'll never be grateful to him. But I'm grateful I survived him. I understood exactly what she meant. Marcus had been the worst thing that ever happened to me. But surviving him, fighting back, building a new life, that had been the making of me. That night, David and I lay in bed, Sophie asleep down the hall, the house quiet and safe. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if you hadn't overheard that phone call? David asked. All the time, I admitted. Marcus would have filed for divorce with his fake evidence. I would have been blindsided, destroyed. Jake would have either taken the bribe and ruined our relationship, or refused and had his business destroyed anyway. Marcus and Vanessa would have disappeared with millions of dollars. And they would have done it to someone else, and someone after that. But that's not what happened. No. I listened to my instincts. I fought back. Jake chose family over money. Diana was brilliant. The FBI took it seriously. 1,000 things could have gone wrong, but they didn't. You made them not go wrong, David corrected. You didn't just survive, Elle. You dismantled an entire criminal organization. I turned to face him in the darkness. We dismantled them. Me, Jake, Diana, the FBI, Jennifer, Patricia, all the other victims who were brave enough to testify. It took all of us. But you were the first domino to fall. Or rather, the first one to refuse to fall. I thought about that. About the moment I'd heard Marcus's voice through that office door. About the choice I'd made to listen instead of walking away. About warning Jake instead of confronting Marcus immediately. About every strategic decision that followed. I refused to let him have been the most important thing that ever happened to me, I said. He was a chapter. A terrible chapter. But Sophie is my story now. You are. The foundation is. The hundreds of people we've helped. That's what defines my life. Does it still hurt? When you think about it? Sometimes, I admit it. Not the loss of him, I never really had him to lose. But the loss of who I thought he was. The innocence of believing someone completely. That still aches. But you believed me. I verified you first, I said with a small laugh. Background check, credit check, asked your colleagues about you, met your family within the first month. You passed every test. I know. And I never minded because I understood why you needed to do it. That's the thing about real love, Elle. It accommodates trauma. It doesn't demand you pretend to be undamaged. I kissed him. I love you. The real you. The verified you. I love you too. The survivor you. The warrior you. We fell asleep like that, wrapped around each other, safe in the life we built on truth. The next morning, I received an email from the FBI. They wanted to use my case in their training academy as an example of how victims can become powerful witnesses and how family members can be assets in taking down fraud rings. You'll be a case study, the agent wrote. Every FBI recruit will learn about the Chenchin case and how strategic documentation and family cooperation led to one of the largest fraud busts in history. I showed Jake the email. We were having coffee at his gym, now a thriving business with 3 locations across Seattle. We're going to be in textbooks, he said, shaking his head in disbelief. Who would have thought? Mom and Dad would be proud, I said quietly. We protected each other, just like they taught us. They'd be proud of you especially. You turned a nightmare into a movement. We turned it into a movement, I corrected. I couldn't have done any of it without you. If you'd taken Marcus's money, I would never have taken his money, Elle. You're my sister. Nothing is worth betraying that. I know, but he didn't know that. He assumed everyone had a price. He couldn't comprehend that some things are more valuable than money. Like family. Like family. We clinked our coffee cups together in a toast. To family. To survival. To justice. Later that week, I spoke at a law school about my experience. The auditorium was packed with future lawyers, prosecutors, and judges. I told them everything. The manipulation, the gaslighting, the calculated cruelty, and most importantly, the legal strategies that had worked to bring Marcus and Vanessa down. During the Q&A session, a young woman in the front row raised her hand. Mrs. Chun, my question is about trust. After everything you went through, how did you learn to trust your current husband? How do you not see potential con artists everywhere? I took a breath. This was the question everyone wanted answered. Honestly, I did see potential con artists everywhere for a long time. I was hypervigilant. Paranoid. I questioned everyone's motives. Therapy helped. Time helped. But mostly, I learned to trust my instincts again. The same instincts that made me listen at that door, that told me something was wrong, those instincts also told me David was different. Safe. Real. But how do you know your instincts are right? You don't. Not with absolute certainty. That's the scary part of trusting again. There are no guarantees. But I can tell you the difference. With Marcus, my instincts were constantly on alert. Little things fell off, even when I couldn't articulate why. I ignored those warnings because I wanted to believe in the fantasy. With David, my instincts are calm. Not complacent, but calm. There's no cognitive dissonance, no explaining away red flags, no feeling like I'm crazy for questioning things. When you're with someone real, you don't have to gaslight yourself to make the relationship make sense. The auditorium was silent. People were taking notes, nodding, some wiping tears. And if I'm being completely honest, I continued, I still verify. I still pay attention. I still trust but verify. David knows I check our bank accounts regularly. He knows I notice his patterns and would notice if they changed. He knows I ask questions. And he welcomes that transparency because he has nothing to hide. Real love isn't threatened by verification. Lies are. Another hand went up. What would you say to someone who's currently in a relationship and starting to feel like something is off? Document everything. Quietly. Don't confront until you have proof, because good con artists will gaslight you into doubting your own sanity. Trust your gut. Tell someone you trust what you're experiencing. And if you need help, the Truth Alliance has resources. You're not alone. You're not crazy. And you can survive this. After the event, at least 20 people approached me with their own stories. Some were victims. Some had family members who'd been conned. Some were lawyers who'd seen these cases and didn't know how to help their clients. One woman, probably in her 60s, gripped my hand tightly. My daughter is in a relationship I don't trust. He isolates her, controls her money, says he's looking out for her. She won't listen to me. What do I do? Stay in contact, I said. Even if she pushes you away, keep reaching out. Let her know you're there without judgment when she's ready to leave. And document what you observe. If it ever goes to court, that documentation will matter. Most importantly, tell her you love her and you'll believe her when she's ready to tell you the truth. The woman's eyes filled with tears. Thank you. I felt so helpless. You're not helpless. You're building a safety net for when she falls. That's what Jake did for me. He was there, ready to catch me, the moment I realized I was in danger. Driving home that night, I thought about all the families like mine. All the Jakes out there who had to make impossible choices between loyalty and money. All the victims who felt trapped and alone. The Truth Alliance was helping, but it wasn't enough. We needed better laws, stronger protections, more resources for victims. So I did something I never imagined I'd do. I ran for the state legislature. My platform was simple: stronger penalties for romance fraud, mandatory restitution for victims, better training for judges and law enforcement, and state funding for victim services. Are you sure about this? David asked when I told him I was filing my candidacy papers. Politics is brutal. They'll dredge up everything about your past. Let them, I said. I'm not ashamed of what happened to me. I'm using it as proof that I understand exactly what victims need. The campaign was brutal. My opponent ran ads suggesting I was bitter and vengeful, not fit for office. They painted me as damaged, unstable, someone who couldn't be objective about criminal justice. But then something remarkable happened. Victims started coming forward. Hundreds of them. They showed up at my rallies. They shared their stories on social media. They canvassed neighborhoods on my behalf. Jennifer Rodriguez moved to Seattle just to campaign for me. Patricia Morrison flew in from Texas to speak at my events. Michelle, the woman whose life I'd saved by sharing my story, became my campaign manager. This isn't about Elena Chun, Michelle told reporters. This is about every person who's been conned, manipulated, gaslit, and told they should have known better. Elena is giving us a voice. I won the election by 12 points. On my first day in the state legislature, I introduced the Justice for Fraud Victims Act. It passed unanimously 6 months later. Romance fraud became a distinct criminal category with enhanced penalties. Victims gained the right to full restitution plus damages. Every law enforcement agency in the state received training on how to investigate these cases. You did it, Jake said at the bill signing ceremony. You turned your personal nightmare into systemic change. We're not done, I replied. This is just Washington. We need this nationwide. And we're working on it. The Truth Alliance has lobbyists in 40 states now. We're building a coalition of victims, advocates, and legislators who understand that romance fraud isn't just a civil matter. It's a serious crime that destroys lives. Marcus and Vanessa are still in prison. They'll both be eligible for parole again in 2 years. I'll be there at the hearing. I'll testify again. I'll make sure the parole board remembers every life they destroyed. But they no longer define me. They're footnotes in a much larger story about resilience, justice, and the power of refusing to be silenced. Sophie is 9 now. Last week, she asked if she could come to the Truth Alliance headquarters with me. I want to help people like you do, Mama. I brought her in on a Saturday. She colored with the kids in our childcare center while I met with victims. She helped sort donations. She listened to me speak with a woman who just escaped a fraudulent marriage. On the drive home, Sophie was quiet for a long time. Then she said, Mama, that lady you were talking to, she was really sad. Yes, baby. She's going through something very hard. Like you did with the bad man? Similar, yes. But you helped her feel less scared. I could tell. She was crying at first, but then she was smiling. That's what we do at the Truth Alliance. We help people remember they're strong. When I grow up, I want to help people remember they're strong too. I reached over and squeezed her hand. You already do, sweetheart. You already do. That's my legacy. Not the con, not the betrayal, not the dramatic courtroom confrontation. My legacy is a daughter who understands the value of truth, a brother who chose family over money, a husband who sees my scars and loves me anyway, a foundation that helps hundreds of victims every year, and laws that make it harder for predators to operate. Marcus thought he could take everything from me. Instead, he inadvertently gave me a purpose larger than myself. My name is Elena Chen. I'm 39 years old now. I'm a state legislator, a mother, a wife, a sister, a survivor, and an advocate. 10 years ago, I was a victim of a calculated con. Today, I'm the reason con artists like Marcus have to think twice before targeting vulnerable people. That's not just victory. That's vindication. And it tastes sweeter than any revenge ever could. Thank you for staying until the end. If this story gave you the justice you needed to see, check out the other videos on screen. They're just as satisfying. And if you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? See you in the next story.